traditionalist persuasion, how we approach the Quran. But before that, I'd like to say, I mean, this name, you see the Quranology Institute, that is my personal approach. I mean, I'm not speaking for all Quranists here. There might be some Quranists who disagree with me. So I can only say that this is from my personal research, and if you find it useful, maybe you can adopt it in your own reading. So the first thing we need to realize is that we're often told, as Jacqueline and Crystal mentioned, that the Quran is somewhat inaccessible. We're not able to understand it. I mean, it's the book of guidance from Allah, but it's far too complicated for mere mortals, apparently. This is unfortunately a very damaging myth which we have carried as Muslims all these years, I think. And we have deprived ourselves of witnessing how the Quran explains itself. I mean, I didn't know this as well growing up. In fact, I read tafsir. I was brought up in a traditional Muslim background, and I read tafsir. And I was not allowed to question tafsir because tafsir is from the Prophet. So it's also divine inspiration, explaining divine inspiration. Who am I to say anything about that? But later on, when I became a Quranist, I realized lots of problems with traditional interpretation. That's where we'll begin today. Right, we're looking at Quran chapter 33, verse 69, which is an address to those who have believed, alladhina amanu, and they are told to be not like those who abused Moses. Moses is, I would say, the personality in the Quran who is mentioned the most, literally 136 times. And that's obviously quite surprising for, going back to what Nadia was saying earlier, what the contents of the Quran are. You would probably not expect Musa, of all people, to be the most mentioned, but he is. And the Quran says, be not like those who abused Musa. And this is explained by the Prophet, apparently, who said that Moses was a shy person and used to cover his body completely because of his extensive shyness. One of the children of Israel heard him by saying he covers his body in this way because of some defect on his skin, etc., etc. I'm not going to repeat the rest of it. But the point is, this explanation, which I read in Kashif Shahzada's Authority of the Quran, shocked me. It didn't occur to me that Hadith explanation simply did not cohere with the Quran. Why does it not cohere? What was the problem with that interpretation? That's a question I pose. Firstly, it's very insulting to the Prophet Musa. What good is it to tell us of his defects in his certain parts of his body? What good is it? How is that helping us to apply the Quran and Islam? It's unverifiable. We're talking about people who died even before Prophet Muhammad. How are we meant to verify this information? And most prominently, it's not applicable. How do we apply this? The Quran is a book of guidance, yeah? So we are supposed to accept that information, process it, and apply it. How do we apply this interpretation? Yeah, so Prophet Musa had genital defects apparently on his private parts. What does that got to do with us? This is information which is folkloric, superstitious, and very deeply insulting. And it does not help us understand